Now, we must always remember this and never forget that everything the Lion of the tribe of Judah has done and everything He will accomplish, this great and mighty Lion has accomplished it by dying as a lamb. The Lamb that was slain, it says He is now standing. As the New Testament church always cried out, He has risen indeed. John is now just seeing with his own eyes what Christ Himself declared to him at the beginning of this book when He said, I am the first and the last, the living one, and I was dead, and behold, I am alive. Not periodically, not at just this moment, but I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of death and of hell. The Lamb is risen, but I want you to realize something. Though He is risen, though He is all-powerful, the marks remain. The cross was not a necessary evil to be forgotten. It was the greatest revelation of God to be remembered forever. It was not a momentary evil to be forgotten. Goes on, he says, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the world. The horn in ancient Jewish literature referred to power. We can see that in Deuteronomy 33:17. As the firstborn of his ox, majesty is his, and his horns are the horns of the wild ox. With them he will push the peoples all at once to the ends of the earth. Now, the fact that the Christ not only has a horn, but has 7 horns, represents His absolute and perfect power. Some scholars suggest, especially from this passage in Deuteronomy, that it refers to not only perfect power, but aggressive power. I want to read something. Just listen for a moment. From Isaiah 59, and he saw that there was no man, and was astonished that there was no one to intercede. Then His own arm brought salvation to him, and His righteousness upheld him. He put on righteousness like a breastplate, and a helmet of salvation on his head. And He put on garments of vengeance for clothing, and listen, wrapped Himself with zeal as a mantle. This Christ, my goodness, man, listen to me. Lift up your head. Get it out of a book. Think about this. Christ is doing mighty things in the land. I could right now just stop preaching. This brother could come forward. We could tell you report after report after report. Some of them so magnificent you would not believe them about what this Christ is doing. He has wrapped Himself in zeal. And He is carrying out a great work. For the last 2,000 years, He has been doing it, and He will continue it until the day He returns. And you need to understand something. Christianity is not some little thing, some sectarian thing done in South Mississippi. You take everything Christ has done and is doing, and Christianity is, has been, and always will be the biggest thing going in the universe. And you get to be a part of it. And don't you realize we are living in the greatest time to be a Christian? You know, these people moping about us living in a post-Christian America. It gives us an opportunity to live it like first-century Christians. We may even get to suffer for Him before we get out of here. What a privilege. What a privilege. Goes on. Christ is not nonchalant in His endeavors. And it says He has 7 eyes. These represent His omniscience. Nothing is beyond His government, and nothing is beyond His gaze. Nothing is going to appear suddenly over the hill and thwart His plans. He knows everything. Absolutely everything. So He is all-powerful. He is all-knowing, and He is worthy. Cease writes the following: 3 grand qualities of the Christ are thus brought to view. First, His sacrificial virtue to take away sin. Second, His aggressive strength to conquer and to overcome all foes. And third, perfect and universal intelligence direct from the indwelling Spirit of God in all His fullness. Therefore, this Lamb really is worthy. He really is. Verse 7, and he came and took the book out of the right hand who sat on the throne. Do you know anything about God? Don't you realize you can't do this? You can't do this. This is amazing. Thies writes, this is the sublimest individual act recorded in the Apocalypse. Ramsey writes, it is the investiture of the slain Lamb with universal dominion. Isaiah, in the year of the king Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above him stood the seraph, each one having with 6 wings. With 2 they covered their face, with 2 they covered their feet, with 2 they did fly. And one cried unto the other, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. He goes on, and then he says, Woe is me, for I am undone. He caught a fraction of a glimpse of God, and it disintegrated him. The Lamb, this Son of David, greater than David, walks right up to God. And don't forget, this is our brother. This is the one who did not take upon himself the nature of an angel, the nature of a man. Here we find a direct correlation, I believe, with the Son of Man in Daniel. It says, in Daniel 7, I kept looking in night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like a Son of Man was coming, and he came up to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him, and to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. This is what Jesus meant when he said, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. Think of that. What did you think that meant? That simple statement, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. That could be, some theologians believe, the most radical statement Jesus Christ ever made. All authority has been given unto him in heaven and on earth. Ephesians 1:20 and 21, he raised him from the dead and seated him at the right hand in heavenly places, at his right hand in the heavenly places, far above all rule and authority and power and dominion and every name that is named, not only in this age, but also in the one to come. Verse 8. When he had taken the book, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each one holding a harp. Here we see the most exalted creatures in the universe falling on their face before Christ. If this is not a proof of deity, what could be? And know this. Learn from them. If you're going to take anything home to meditate on tonight, meditate on their action. The most exalted creatures. I'm sure if one of them came down to this planet, the world could not contain them. Their beauty would devastate us. Our minds would not be able to comprehend a fraction of their glory. Such fear would set upon us that we would all die in an instant. And they throw themselves down before Jesus of Nazareth. Will they not condemn us on the day of judgment for our lack of worship? The Puritans were right when they called sin, neglect of God, insanity. But the most reasonable creatures throw themselves down, and we have no time for such things. Are you sure you know Christ? Are you sure? Goes on. Golden bowls, and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. I simply want to say this, skimming over it. In ancient Jewish literature, again, angels were often appearing, presenting the prayers of God's people to God. But here's something that's quite amazing. They do this in the presence of the Lamb. He is our mediator. There is one God, only one, and one mediator between God and man, the man, Christ Jesus. Goes on, verse 9, and they sing a new song saying, "Worthy are you to take the book and to break its seals." All of heaven now confesses with its mouth what it's been proclaiming with its posture. They've thrown themselves down before Christ, and they are crying out, "You are worthy." They sing a new song. Now, in the Scriptures, a new song is usually coined after some new act of deliverance. This is the last new song to ever be sung.